Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Living in Alignment podcast. My name is Amy Starr Allen, and I am joined today by the lovely Ginny Gane. And Ginny, for more than a decade, has been working intimately with manifestos and empowering primarily women, but both women and men around the world to transform mediocre lives into experiences of true abundance, joy, and love through leveraging the principles of the law of attraction. And having studied intensely the power of the mind starting at age 9, and additionally through her degree in kinesiology, years of experience as a law of attraction coach, and now a best-selling author and founder of LOA Skills Camp. She's the author of A Champion Mindset. And as well, she has a unique behind the scenes perspective of what works in true vibrational transformation. And she's been guiding individuals in virtually every area you can think of. She's helped people create six-figure businesses, realize dreams of traveling the world, manifest dream corporate positions, promotions, star acting roles, letting go of unhealthy relationships, aligning with true love relationships, creating harmonious parent-child relationships, and so much more. So I'm so thrilled to have you on here today, Ginny. I think this conversation is going to make a huge difference for my audience. So welcome, and how are you today?
Thank you so much, Amy. I'm excited to be here too. And it's just such a joy to share back and forth, have this energy going between us. I love the name of your show. So I know the intention is so aligned, right? That's what my company is called, Live Your Truth. And basically that is what Live Your Truth is, living in alignment with who you really are. And I think we talk a lot about vibration, but because that's at the core of all this, right? Like when you're learning to really live your truth and be the authentic version of you, we have to acknowledge that other part, the vibrational part of us. So I'm excited to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you just tell me a little bit more about what happened when you were 9 years old and you started realizing the power of the mind at age 9? That's amazing.
Yeah, I was really lucky to have great conscious parents that were like, hey, let's enroll our kids in this course. I believe it was called the Silva course at that time. And it taught us things as kids where it was like learning to use meditation and learning to not meditation, visualization, but just go into your mind and start to understand that what you're thinking about has an effect on what you experience in life. And, we did little things like learn to train our memory, or say I remember one technique we learned, if we were taking a test in school and we didn't know the answer, that we could close our eyes, we could go into our mind and ask the teacher the answer, so it's like little,
wow.
like openings like that. But I used it a lot in athletics when I was young, and I would play different sports and visualizing just scoring goals in soccer. It was soccer, basketball mostly, and scoring goals in soccer, or like having a really good game. And so I didn't realize it at the time, obviously, but it was really setting a really solid foundation to being able to then apply that to life things and create in terms of focusing and what I want in life versus sports or tests.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that so much. So I know you've helped a lot of people with a lot of different areas, as I just said in your bio. Do you want to give us an example of something that somebody manifested with your help or with the help of the law of attraction?
Yeah. When you were reading those examples, I'm like, yes, like it was getting me really excited. And I love how, and I intentionally shared how like letting go of unhealthy relationships is like, that's a manifestation. Like we are often thinking like about the getting, but so often creating the space is a big part. It's like, it happens before we get the thing we want, and the letting go of the unhealthy relationships or the unhealthy, to get really basic, thoughts unhealthy. And I don't even want to say unhealthy. I just want to say like, because it almost defines them as wrong or bad, but
Out of alignment.
yes, and not aligned with our dreams or our desires or who we want to be. And one of the big concepts along as we grow on this path is really finding that place of acceptance of what is. And so we're not pushing against anything. So there's nothing negative or bad, which I think sometimes is a new thing to hear for a lot of people. But yeah, what's one of the women in my courses right now, there's so many good things. I mean, where do I start? Okay, one of the women just manifested a reoccurring role on a TV show that was just, she's been wanting it's one of those dreams, and it happened, and she got the call, and that was a big celebration. Yeah, one of the, yeah. And some of the most fulfilling ones too that I love celebrating are like the smaller ones, like the relationship ones. Like you might have been in a marriage for however many years, and then you start doing this work and you're like, I'm more connected to my partner than I have been ever. And I love hearing that. Or seeing their family relationships shift. Like I've had this whatever with my brother-in-law for so long, and I never thought we could have a harmonious relationship. And not by, well, there is some intention on their part, but it's not work. That relationship begins to shift. So that happens all the time. And those are some of the really fun ones for me to celebrate.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So it's like you were saying, it's not necessarily like negative, but there's like some sort of resistance. Resistance is not our friend when it comes to the law of attraction, right?
Right. Yeah. The whole
and doubt and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the thing is, all resistance comes from our mind. Like our thoughts are the thing that are resistant. And I have so many different ways to share about this, but because I really want to emphasize that we're not doing it wrong, like approaching your path from like, it gets to be better and better and better, that you're not, even if you're noticing resistance in your life or you're feeling negativity, not starting from the place of self-blame or self-judgment, right? Like that has to be, we have to be willing to say, I am where I am, before we can then release that resistance. Because we all have resistance wherever we are. And like, there's always going to be something, because our thoughts are very conditioned and to react to life and have that resistance response. But yeah, like you said, the resistance coming from the thoughts is the only thing, or is the only way we have resistance. And eventually, this is what I wanted to say, is eventually we can get to the place where we have a choice around those resistance thoughts, to kind of accept them or choose something different, like be able to direct our thoughts. Have you had kind of that experience where it's been, you felt the resistance, but you didn't really like know what you didn't feel like you had a choice with it? It kind of like it pulled you in a way.
Yeah. And I've noticed too, the more I practice, the law of attraction, or just really tune into the universal laws, I guess, and try to, I'm just more present to my thoughts than I used to be. So I notice when there's that resistance or negative self-talk or whatever, and I try to shift it right away, because I know, I think a lot of people don't realize that that's the stuff that like you could want what you want, but as long as you're having that negative self-talk and those doubts and stuff, what you want wants you, but you've got that those thoughts are in the way of you actually reaching that. And because I'm aware of that now, I notice when I'm having those thoughts. And we all have them, and I'm not perfect. Like I have days where I like spiral down for a while before I'm like, okay, I gotta shift this. But yeah, I know, like we actually have a choice about those thoughts and about that resistance. And sometimes it doesn't feel like we do, but we do. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. And I think this is general rule for everything, right? As we practice, it gets easier and easier to identify those. And oftentimes in the beginning, but this has come up for me at all different levels of this practice for me, is just remembering the importance of our thoughts. Like
Mhm.
just reminding ourselves, okay, it's important how you focus on this, right? Like I could be driving down the road and being like, oh, traffic again. And then if I have the awareness, I'm like, oh, wait, it's important how you focus on this traffic right now. Like it will influence your experience.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times we just forget we have that power. And I get this clients to come to me with this all the time. Like they forget it actually works in all situations. Like
Right.
there's nothing excluded from this idea that how we focus on something influences how we experience it. They're like, oh, no,
Right.
no, that's the way that is. That person is mean. That person is just rude. And I'm like, no, 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 that's not how it works.
We're
Yeah.
manifesting everything, good and
Yeah.
bad. Everything is a
Yes.
manifestation.
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
good old universe is not, it doesn't, this actually, I love sharing this because it kind of is a shocker for some people that the law of attraction doesn't want what's best for you. Because the law of attraction doesn't have a preference. It's
Right.
non-judgmental. It's
Yeah.
just responding to your energy.
Right.
So it's like you're putting out this vibe, we'll give you this vibe. It's not good or bad to it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So what if somebody thinks this is woo-woo and doesn't? I was listening to a conversation the other day that I thought was interesting, doesn't believe in the law of attraction. And the answer that in the conversation was, well, like, it's like someone not believing in gravity. It's
I
a
know,
law.
it's so funny.
It's happening whether you believe it or not.
Yeah.
It's happening.
Yeah.
And so I think the law of attraction, gravity, it's kind of an obvious law, but like the law of attraction, like I think some people just think it's woo-woo and they don't believe in it because they can't, it's not like a tangible thing that they can necessarily, I mean, we can witness it once we're aware of it and we practice it, we see what it does.
Yeah.
But like for somebody that doesn't believe that, what would you say to them? Like, can they still
The
manifest,
very,
what they want?
yeah. I mean, they are manifesting no matter whatever they believe. But the very, very, very first thing is asking yourself, or at least coming to that place to say, am I open to believe this? Because until we have that, door open to see things, we're not going to see things because we're manifesting what we believe, right? The life is simply a reflection of what's happening in us. So if there's someone that doesn't believe it, and I really don't think it's necessary, like people are called to this stuff if it's for them on their path, and there's lots of right ways. So if someone that, and I'm a big proponent of never trying to convince anyone of anything. So oftentimes, like my clients will be practicing this and their partners or friends don't want anything to do with it. They're so excited about it. They're like, oh, I just want to share this and I just want to tell them this. And they don't believe that. And I'm like, it's okay. Like, let them, that's fine. And sometimes they come around and they get interested in it, but the interest has to come from the individual. It can't be us like putting what we want on someone else. But yeah, so for anyone that doesn't believe, I would just say, am I open to asking yourself that question? Like, am I open to knowing this or seeing if this is true? Because as soon as you are open to it, you'll begin to see how it works and the evidence of it. And like a lot of law of attraction people talk about often, the easiest one is picking a color car, holding it in your mind for 10 seconds, and then how you start to see that everywhere, right? Like that's it. That's the essence of how this works. And so it doesn't need to be complicated. But I do think for someone that is interested in kind of getting that, I do have a lot of like analytical clients, and it does help them with those initial stages of belief to understand the science behind it, and going into like the observer effect and mirror neurons and things like that, physiological things actually in our body that are causing that we get to see how this works on that quantum physics scientific level.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that that's available as well for those scientific,
Yeah.
people that need proof of
Yeah.
something, this isn't just a woo woo,
It's
like,
not just woo
what?
woo. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
And then the other part of
No.
this, like, as much as I don't like convincing, I do love talking about is like we have a choice. No one can argue how we have a choice of how to look at something, right? So we can look at the world and we can think it's positive or we can think it's negative. Like we have like that choice. And so why would you choose to think or to not be open to something that feels good? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like we don't,
Yeah.
and I understand the what might be coming back. Well, there's all these negative things that happen in the world, and there's all these positive things that happen in the world. So like what is true? And what is true for you is what you give more attention and focus to. There's a whole range of diverse experiences in our world. And that's proof enough that there's something to do with like an individual focus that has to do with this, like that's playing a role.
We get to choose what serves us.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't do that because they don't know that that's available, that they can
Is
do that.
possible. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So one thing I'd love to talk with you about that I know we mentioned earlier was being a vibrational leader. Can you speak on that topic,
Oh,
please?
this just totally lights me up. And originally this term came to me years and years ago when I was in actually my coaching program to get, to become a law of attraction coach. And I was saying something and my coach said to me, why don't you just be the vibrational leader of that? And I'm like, oh, like, be the example basically. But we're just acknowledging, because I think it was talking about business. And I said, I don't resonate with, like, I don't want to have to do all these emails and all these posts and all these whatever I'm supposed to do. Like, it doesn't feel good. And I'm like, can I really just create a business following my inspiration and being who I want to be? And that was her response. Well, why don't you be the vibrational leader in this? Like, be the example. But what that really means when we're talking about, so everything in the whole universe at its core is vibration. Everything we see, physical matter, everything at its essence is vibration, right? All these little tiny molecules, atoms vibrating, and most everything is space, right? So it's all energy, and all that energy and vibration can be measured in frequency. And there's a vibrational component to every action we take. So when we are taking action, let's say in our business or as a parent or in a relationship, we're saying certain words, we are writing an email, we are speaking, all of that has a vibrational component. And so the frequency of that action matters in how it is received in the world, but also how, like, the energy you're adding to the world. And so vibrational leadership is truly about paying attention to the energy or the vibration that you're in before you're taking action, and like making the energy that you're in the priority before, and letting the action come, letting the words come from that place. But it's an alignment first, kind of, when we talk about alignment being connection with your true self or your inner being, alignment and then action. And that's you being the vibrational leader versus just being the leader that does all the right things, right? There can be action. There's a lot of leaders in this world that are taking action without the alignment there. And would you say, actually, Amy, that we've been taught a paradigm that is based on hard work and all those actions? Yeah.
Absolutely. It's about grind and hustle and like do action. And I totally agree. Like if your mindset is off, you're not going to get the same results. I can give you an example that I just
Yeah.
experienced. Like, so like a week ago, I had a call with a guy that, needed some help. And he was telling, everything that came out of his mouth was like, I'm doing this and that and the other thing that everybody else is doing, and they're getting results and I'm not getting results. This doesn't work for me. This is a waste of time. This is like, everything that came out of his mouth was like just very negative and very, just not in alignment with what the results that he was trying to create. And so I explained to him, like, your mindset is like the most important thing. Like, before you do the actions, you have to actually believe that the actions are going to help somebody and that they are going to, get you the results that you want. And I don't think, like, after talking to him for almost an hour, I don't think that he was buying it. Like, I think he thinks it's just a matter of doing more. And, or like finding the right, like the ads that he's running aren't working, so he needs a different ad vendor. I'm like, that's not what it is. Like, it's not what it is. It looks like that's what it is, but as long as you're taking these actions and you're totally out of alignment, it doesn't matter who runs your ads for you, you're not going to get results. And I think he thought I was like off my rocker.
Yeah.
So because I gave him some resources to help him with his mindset, and I don't think he's actually necessarily using any of them. So, because I don't think, he believes that that's what's actually in his way. It's hard. I don't want to convince anybody, but I could see it, like, just based on how he was talking, that who would, and the other thing is, like, the energy that you're putting into your work, even if it's invisible, whatever, like, is being received by your audience. And who is going to want to respond to negative energy and like join you or buy something from you if the vibe behind, again, the vibration right behind everything that you're putting out is negative? I mean, first of all, law of attraction is like a magnet, right? So you're not even going to attract the people in the first place. But if somebody is reading your ad or your email or whatever, they're a lot less likely to actually take action based on what they're reading, just because of the vibration that was coming, through the email that you're writing or the ad that you're writing, right?
Or 100 million%, yes. Or if you're pissed off and you're writing an email, or you're doing it because you have to do it, guess what kind of clients you're going to get? You're going to get clients that are a pain in the butt, because that's the energy you put into it.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. Yeah. And I think that is what we're taught, though. Like, again, coming back to this, we don't know better until we know better, and we are where we are. And so we are very conditioned to believe that action is what creates success. And I feel we're totally shifting out of this, but we're moving away from the like do, getting our value from getting the results from doing. And we're shifting to the taking act, the being, like, be the successful entrepreneur, be the thriving artist, be the person in love, and then take action from that place. And that's when you're getting much quicker results. You're getting a easier experience, like a much more smooth experience. But the energy you put into something, into an action, makes all the difference in what that energy does in the world. And I love the example you used with like running ads or something. I have a great example of that, because along my path, I thought it was the right thing to do. Like, I bought into this, you gotta market this way, and you have to run ads and do this process. And I dumped loads of money into this marketing campaign, and all the work, although it had a bit of, I was still learning the difference between inspired action and doing what I thought I was supposed to be doing. It had some inspiration, but it had a lot more work, a lot more like efforting and getting this done. And it was stressful, and I got it done, and I went through all the process, and I made like 4 sales. And I was like, this is not what, like, this is not what, whatever. And then, so once I had left that, all that, I'll just say negative energy, but like low vibe energy, the not aligned energy was gone. And I left space for a month. I had an inspired idea and I had 20 sales in a day. And that's what I mean by like the energy that goes into your action makes a difference in what kind of result, the experience of the results you get. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about inspired action, because I'm all about inspired action. So I'd like to hear your take on, like, does inspired action mean like the minute that you have a moment of inspiration that you take action, you get an idea, take action on it right then and there, or what? Tell me a little more about what your take is on that.
Yeah. So for me, I like to differentiate between an inspired idea and an inspired action, because I think that we can have lots of inspired ideas, but that often we mistake them for an inspired action, that we're like, ooh, that feels like that's a really good idea. How do I do that? Or what should I do? Or should I, then there's a question about it. And I think the difference with inspired action is it's just like you just go do it. You're not really even thinking about it. You're just taking action. It's like almost like this happened to me the other day. It was nothing major, but I was sitting reading and I just was like, the thought came almost simultaneously as I was like, I'm going to get up and go do that and go write that down. And there was no like time to process or think about the thought or the idea. It was just like, oh, I'm going to go do this. It's like a pull. And it's not necessarily, whereas I can have an inspired idea and be like, oh, that's a really good idea, but it doesn't have enough momentum yet to like pull me into action. So just letting it be an idea is really powerful, because I have loads of ideas about my business or about my relationship or about where I want to live, but it's not always meant to be an action at that moment. Right.
So what do you do with your inspired ideas? Do you have a place you keep them until later?
Sometimes, but like I found the most powerful thing I do is just acknowledge them and celebrate them. And I'm just like, ooh, awesome. That feels fun. And I might think about it for a little bit and just activate that vibration. And then that's it. Then I let it go, and I always trust it will come back at the right time if it's needed again. And because this is one of the places where manifestors kind of get in their own way a little bit, is they jump on every new idea or they write them down and think, okay, I have to do all of these ideas because they all felt good. But what we really need to do is just let it build momentum, because the fact that a thought comes in is showing you're on the right path. But it might just, we use that example for momentum of like a train picking up speed. It might just be one wheel turning, but let's like leave space and let's let it get faster and faster and faster until then we're pulled into that action. What about you? What's your experience with that?
So one of the things that I always talk about is it's a term that I learned years and years ago called being on mission. And I learned it from an interview that I listened to. These two opera singers were being interviewed. And one of my spiritual teachers was interviewing them, and he asked them, I have to remember there was two questions he asked them. And he said something about like, stage fright. Like, the first question was, how do you move an audience to tears when you're singing in a language that they don't speak? Like, they'll be singing in Italian, but an English speaking audience would be moved to tears by their singing. And he's like, how does that even work when they don't understand what you're saying? And they were saying, it's all about your connection with the people. Like, they're receiving what you're providing for them. And the words don't matter. It's like,
talk about vibration.
Yeah. And then the next question he asked them was about stage fright. He said, how is it when you walk out onto a stage in front of hundreds or thousands of people that you don't like freeze up and not be able to deliver the music or whatever. And they said, when you're on mission, there is no such thing as stage fright, because you're just there to deliver something to your audience. And it doesn't matter if you mess up, and it doesn't matter if you fall down on stage. It doesn't matter if you're coming from your heart and you're delivering what you're there to deliver, they're going to receive it. And there is no stage fright when you come from that place. And so I listened to that, and this was a long time ago, but it really shifted something for me and made me realize, like for an example of how I practice this in my life, that's actually, I've seen how this works, is like, for example, like if I'm walking down the street, I used to live in Boulder, Colorado. And I remember one day I'm like walking down the Pearl Street Mall, and there's people everywhere, and there's like street performers or whatever. And I have like an inspired like download come to me right in that moment. And I'm like, I need to share this right now. So I like whip out my camera, and I'm like walking down the Pearl Street Mall talking to my camera, because I'm like, I have to get this out right now. And I didn't care if people were looking at me like, why is she videoing herself? And it was before everybody was doing that with like, Instagram and selfies and all the stuff now. But, because this was years ago, but I didn't care about any of that. I was like, I have something to say that's going to make a difference for somebody, and I need to say it right now, while it's like, it just came to me like, this needs to be said right now. Yeah. And I noticed that each time I would act from inspiration in that way, and not care about my surroundings, not care about my sound quality, not care about my hair, not care about any of that, like, just, I have something that I need to deliver right now. The way that people responded to that type of content, as opposed to, I'm shooting a video, I watch it, I don't like the way I'm sitting, I forgot to say something, I said something I wish I didn't say, and so I'm going to shoot the video again. And each time I shoot the video again, I'm coming out of my heart and into my head, because I'm thinking about sitting right, or saying the right thing, or not saying that other thing, or whatever. And now I'm not coming from my heart anymore. I'm coming from an intellectual place. And even though the video might look better and be edited better or whatever, it's not received in the same way. So
I love this so much. Such a good example. Yeah. That's a really good awareness for people learning what inspired action is for them. Because if you're worried about others' perceptions, you're not connected to what it is, like to the truth, to the inspiration, because that's the same thing. I remember when I co-host a podcast called Manifest It Now with a woman named Cassie Parks. And we started about 6 years ago. And I remember sitting on her purple couch recording our first episode. And I was like, oh my God, what are people going to think? I was so nervous. But it was a pretty quick shift of like, I'm speaking about something that is so true for me. It doesn't matter. Like, the joy of expressing this is what matters. And right. I mean, people love it. And I think people can feel when you're being authentic and coming from that heart place versus trying to get it perfect. And there's great examples of this in business. Speaking of Instagram, you can have the perfectly aesthetic profile and have all the right number of followers that has no engagement, versus a mismatch of inspired colors and whatever that is inspired and authentic, and people love it. Mm-hmm. So it is always about the energy. It's always about the beingness you're taking into it, versus the trying to fit, like you said, fit the box. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I know. I think a lot of people, get tripped up because they're trying to follow some type of formula from some course that they got from some guru on the internet about exactly how they're supposed to do something. And I definitely come from the belief that there are no rules. Like, the more you walk your own walk, the more success you're going to have. And like you were just saying,
I don't believe truth, baby.
Yeah. I don't believe that the more followers you have, the more successful you are. Because I mean, I know this from my own experience. Like, I do a lot of YouTube marketing, and I don't have a ton of views on my videos, but all my videos make sales.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, my videos make sales on a regular basis. And I know people that have way more subscribers and way more views on their videos, but they're not getting the results that they want in their business with their videos. So to me, it's like, well, even if I have a smaller audience, that doesn't mean that my audience isn't engaged
Yeah.
or receiving what I'm offering them or whatever. So I think that's an important distinction as well, because I think
isn't it fun to be the example of that?
I
I think like we need to talk about the more people because we need examples of this, because the more examples there are in the world, the easier it is for people to know that this works, that you can do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and the other piece of it is, I think, when people are looking at the people who are quote unquote successful, I mean, they look successful by the number of followers they have, or the number of subscribers they have, or the number of comments they have on their posts or whatever. We don't know for sure how successful they actually are. But I think what really gets in the way, and this goes back to the whole alignment thing, is comparing yourself to somebody else that's getting the results that you think you want, and then trying to do what they're doing or trying to be like them instead of just being yourself. I think that's one of the reasons why, without a ton of followers, if you're authentic and you're living your truth and you're walking your walk and you're speaking from your heart, not trying to be like somebody else, you might turn some people away. You might never build as big of a following as that other person, but the people that connect with what you're saying are going to follow you for life. And that's been my experience. Like I have people that have been on my email list for 15 years and they still reply to my emails because they just love my message. And I don't have a huge email list.
Yeah.
But if you're really being yourself, you attract the people that are, that want, that connect, that they're like your true fans and customers and clients.
Your vibe attracts your tribe.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So if you're trying to be like somebody else, then that's not your vibe.
Right.
And even if you do attract people, they're not your tribe.
Yeah. Right. And I think it's okay too. Like, it's okay to be on your path to learning this. You don't have to, it's taken me years to like fully own this experience that we're talking about, of like walking my truth and really believing that what I am inspired to do and how I'm inspired to communicate or run my business or exercise, that is right for me at that time. Like it's okay if it takes you a while to get there, and you're allowed to let it be a process, I think, because we don't get it in 1 year.
Yeah, no. So if you were talking to someone who's brand new to this, never heard of the law of attraction, how would they get started with making some changes to have it work on their behalf?
Yeah. So the best place to start is with awareness. So we can't choose thoughts until we have an awareness of what we're thinking and how we're feeling. So it is just start to pay attention, like ask yourself, set a timer for once a day, twice a day, whatever, and then just stop and say, what am I thinking about right now? How am I feeling right now? So you start to develop an awareness of the thoughts that take up the majority of space in your head and the emotions that you're feeling on a consistent basis, because that gives you the foundation. You start to see why you're getting what you're getting based on how you're thinking and what you're feeling, what you're putting out to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like feeling good is the most important thing. Like, if you can get yourself into a place of joy, if you're not in a place of joy, rather than focusing on all the different actions that you need to take from this negative space, the first thing you should be doing is like putting on some good music and like trying to shift your vibration to get yourself into a place of joy before anything else.
I've really started to teach in the way that's, if you think about like neutral as like the middle line, and anything below that is negative, not bad, but just negative emotions. And then above is positive. If you're feeling any sort of negative emotion, it means you have some resistance going on. And sometimes what trips people is when they're feeling resistant, that they try to feel good too soon. So they're like, I'm feeling frustrated, but I should be feeling good. So I'm going to go try to feel good. Like, what I found is actually so much more powerful is if you're feeling negative, is if you make your intention to just release the resistance. Like, I don't have to feel good right now. I can just let this be. I can just let this be. Because what happens is our natural place is well-being. It's this good feeling, positive place inside us. And that's always kind of flowing to us. And so if we just get out of the way, that is often enough for your natural spring of well-being to kind of come up and shift the vibration for you. So what happens when you do that is it's a lot less work. It's a lot less efforting. It is still, for someone who has lots of conditioned patterns, and we all do, it is still effort to focus your thought. But if you are in those lower emotions and you focus on just letting it be, letting it go, letting it be, and like releasing the resistance, you'll find you'll feel better, you'll feel lighter, easier. Like, it won't feel like so much work. And then once you start to like feel around neutral, or at least hopeful, optimistic, then if you start to focus on, put on that great song, or write a list of positive aspects, or call your best friend and talk about some good things, now it's going to be easier. Like, you're going to get to that good feeling place, that higher vibration, a lot quicker.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's why we can do less. And
yes. That is how we do less, and we manifest more by doing less. Is like,
talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, we tap into like our natural state, our essence, like what you were talking about when you were separating the head from the heart. Like, it is tapping into that heart energy, that like core of you being, where we are abundant and we are creative and inspired and full of ideas and love and joy. Like, that energy is inside us all the time. And so it's almost like we want to, some manifestors are going to hate hearing this, but it's like, we're the vessel. Like, we're not the doers. We're just the vessel for this energy to manifest through us. And sometimes that feels good to people. Like, it is like, oh, great, there's nothing for me to do. That usually feels good. And sometimes it's like, but I'm the one in control. And you are the one in control because you have to create that allowing space in order for that creative energy to come through you. And that's what we were talking about, like releasing resistance. But how you manifest more by doing less is you create the space. You create the vibrational environment for what you want to manifest. Don't try to do the universe's job or the law of attraction's job of the how, right? It's not our mind's job to figure out the how, to figure out the plan, the steps, how many people, which direction, all those specifics. So if we can focus enough to take our mind off of those onto creating the vibrational environment, the space. And when I say vibrational environment, I mean the emotional space, how you feel, that's the vibrational environment. Then it's so much easier. Things manifest so much easier.
I love that. And I love how you're talking about how it's not our job to know the how. This is another thing I talk about all the time. Like, even like doing a vision board or something like that. Like, I recently had something happen off of my vision board that was a perfect example of this, where like I, the how the thing manifested was not anything I could have even come up with on my own.
Yeah.
And I think that's often the case. And so one of the things, would you agree that maybe one of the things that gets in our way of manifesting what we want is that we think it has to happen a certain way?
That gets in our way so much. So much.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how much easier manifesting is when you trust and hold the vision instead of getting into the how. And it's like, it's your mind that wants the how. Your mind is comfortable when it knows the how. It is not comfortable with the unknown. So you have to be willing to not give in to that like pressure from the mind to know the plan. Because if you can leave that space, it's just so much easier. And what happens so often, like some of the times when we are holding a desire for ourselves and we think we know how it's going to happen, say let's use relationships for an example, and we're wanting to manifest our dream person and we're dating someone and then it doesn't work out. Like if we would just hold the vision of what we want, and then because our mind has attached to, oh, it's this person, right? Then when that naturally goes out of your life because it's not the best thing for you, and this could be a person or a business opportunity or a client or whatever, because our mind has said this is the path and then it leaves, now we're all messed up, we're all upset. But if we would just let the universe give us the details, and oh, this was something that was really transformative. I forget who this quote is from, but it's like, act as if everything in your life is your choice, like that it's for you. One of the foundational beliefs I have is like everything in life is for us. Like there's value in everything that comes into our life. It's for us. And so when we approach it like that, we're not pushing against life so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I try to remember that same thing. Everything in life is rigged in my favor.
Yes, that's a great one too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love what you're talking about the control aspect, because I think as human beings, our tendency is to want to be in control, like be in control of that how.
Mind.
That plan.
Yeah.
We need to know the how. We need to know the plan. We need to be in control of all of the steps along the way.
Yeah.
When actually, like the biggest miracles and the best manifestations and all of that I've ever seen in my life are when I remember to just get out of the way. It's like, who knows better the best way or the divine plan that's going to be in my best interest and everybody else's best interest, me or God or the universe
or divine intelligence? Yeah.
So if I can just get out of the way and say, okay, I'm going to hold the vision for this thing. This is my intention, but I don't know how it's going to happen. Like I said, like when I see something come to life, especially if it's on a vision board, because then it's really like, for me, something about seeing it happen when it's like right there in front of my eyes on this vision board on my desktop on my computer every time, and then it happens.
Yeah.
And it's like, I did not see that coming. I couldn't have planned it that way myself, so it works, whether you believe it or not, it works.
Yeah, I know.
And
it's so cool.
We just have to really remember that, let go and let God kind of thing. Like we want to be in control, and we can be in control, but usually we're getting in our own way when we try to control things.
Because our mind is limited. Like, I liked how you're talking about like the energy that comes from the heart, because the heart knows, like the heart's our, physical connection to that, to all that is, to the source. And one of my favorite sayings is still walk the path of your own heart. It's very similar to like live your truth, but trusting the energy that at the core of your being, like who you really are versus what your mind says you are.
I love that.
We could do a whole other hour on that.
Yeah. Well, just to touch on that for a second, because I know we're getting towards the end here, but I know, you talk about living your truth. How would you suggest that somebody get to a place of being able to do that if they don't really know what that means? Like, do you know what I mean?
It can be, you can start right now, right today. And it can be just asking yourself the question, like, who am I? Like, so here's some good questions. What's important to me? Who am I? Just exploring that a little bit. How can I honor what's best for me right now? So you could be working and you could be feeling great, or you could be frustrated, and asking yourself that question, how can I honor what's best for me? And then taking that action, whether it could be 1 minute, it could be like, oh, it would feel great to call my mom. Oh, it would feel great to take a drink of water, and just start acknowledging how you are honoring you. That opens the door. You start living your truth as soon as you do that, because you start acknowledging that you are taking actions that are in alignment with what you want and who you are.
Mm-hmm. So what about when someone says, like, before I do XYZ, I think about what would so-and-so do, like somebody that they look up to, whether it's a friend
Stop
or a
that.
mentor, whatever, yeah, like they want to do what that person would do because they idolize that person or whatever. So
I would say the answer is in you. The answer is always in ourselves. But in that situation, exactly, instead of tuning into something outside, asking the question that helps you tune into what's inside, which is, how do I want to feel in this experience? Again, not what would they do, how do I want to feel in this? So if I'm sitting down to write an email, well, what would this person write about? Scrap that, right? How do I want to feel when I write this email? Because that's your vibration. That is where the action will come from. And now you're writing from what's inside you versus something else.
Right. Yeah. And that's,
You're going to
it's
feel
so,
the difference.
yeah, it's such a perfect example too, when it comes to like writing an email or whatever, because I,
Or a
I know a
post or
lot.
a text or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people try to write in the style of somebody else, or even copy and paste other people's stuff and send it out. I know there's a time and a place for swipe copy or whatever, when there's a launch going on and, with affiliates and whatnot. A lot of people just do that because it's quick and easy. But I believe, like you're saying, if it comes from you, even if it's not as crisp as this person that's been doing copywriting forever or whatever, like it's gonna resonate on a different level with your audience if it's coming from you. And that's the only way to build a relationship with your audience, is if they're connecting with you, not somebody else's style or words or whatever.
Yeah. There's been times when I've like went back and read some of the first emails I've sent out or something, and I'm like, oh, you're so cute. It was like not polished, but it was always, it was just still me. And I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah. That's so funny. I remember I was in a company where like the founder of the company would give us these swipe emails, and his language was just like vulgar, and he got really good results with his marketing. But I'm like, he would give us the emails, and I was new, and I would like edit the emails and make them like clean. And I remember he must have subscribed to my list, and he like replied back to one of my emails, and he's like, I love the way you edit my emails. And take out all the bad words. I'm like, that's just not me. I mean, it's just not who I want to be on the internet,
And
so
that's a perfect example of how alignment works. So for him, because it was coming from him, those words, those emails were in alignment with who he was. He can get great results about that, but you couldn't. And that's exactly why we can't copy what someone else is doing in life, because our life is meant to be lived from our heart and soul, not, and we're going to create alignment by honoring what's inside us, not trying to match what the box is.
Yeah. So good. So can you tell us a little bit more just about your book and anything else that you use to help people? I know you said you had clients. I don't know if you have other courses or anything else that you do. And I'll include, you can talk about all of it. And I'll include, just so everybody knows, I'll put links to all of Ginny's stuff in the show notes too, so you can find it all. But yeah, tell us a little bit more about what your book's about, and then anything else that you offer.
Cool. Yeah. And you can always come find me on Instagram too. It's just Ginny Gane, my name. And you can say hi, you can message me. I will respond back. I love the connections. But yeah, my book is, I have a book, The Champion Mindset, and also I have a course called LOA Skills Camp. And they are kind of like, if I could share a message with the world, it's all in there. It's like everything just about what this is, like your power, what your power is, how you access it, and then in the course, how you apply it and having those shifts in your life so you feel powerful to create your life. I mean, this is available to everyone and anyone, no matter where you are. You could be totally new to this, or you could be, have been in this for 20 years. I have clients who have been in law of attraction or spiritual world for 20 years. And they're like, I took your course or I read your book and I had this aha, or I had this massive shift, because there's always more. There's always more for us. We're constantly expanding beings. And so it just never ends. We never get it done. But yeah, I have a lot of fun leading that course and writing the book. And it was just, the book was totally inspired. It's really funny actually, because building my business, I'm very easy and I have a lot of fun, and it was all based on inspiration. So kind of the story with my friends and family is like, oh, Ginny never works, because it seems like I'm never working. And then when I was writing the summer, I was writing that book, I would like wake up early and I'd be like writing, and people would be coming out like, wow, you're really working a lot. I'm like, I'm not working. I'm so inspired. But it was funny. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love what you said about people getting, even people that have been studying the law of attraction for a long time, getting something, another aha, because, they always say when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like I've noticed too, like I've read some books multiple times, and like sometimes it's like the second, third, fourth, or fifth time. Each time I read it, I get something else that I didn't get because I wasn't ready to get it or whatever. It's like peeling off layers of the onion. And I think, sometimes having a different teacher helps you get a different perspective on the law of attraction. Like maybe somebody listens to Esther Hicks and loves it and is like, yeah, I don't need Ginny's book or course because Esther Hicks is all I need. But, sometimes having a different teacher will help you. If you've been listening to Esther Hicks for years, I mean, I love Abraham and I love I listen to that podcast or whatever.
Yeah.
It's all basically the same thing regurgitated in different conversations. If you've been listening to that for multiple years and your life still sucks, then you're obviously not getting what you need in order to be able to apply it to your life. So maybe reading Ginny's book, or because you give people like how to apply the law of attraction, right? In your book, isn't that one? Yeah. So that might be really helpful. And so I can't recommend it from a personal perspective because I haven't read it yet, but
it's
just,
a quick, easy read too.
Yeah. Knowing what I know about Ginny and yeah, I just, and this conversation, I imagine it's probably awesome. So
one of those books that did that
get
for
a copy.
Me I'm reading The Power of Now right now by Eckhart Tolle. I mean, I read that 10 years ago, or I had the audiobook and I would like fall asleep and I'd be like, oh, that's really great. And then I'm like, oh, his voice is so boring. Yeah. And now I'm reading it. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. I'm like underlining this. I'm underlining this. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. And I was like, oh, you weren't ready before.
Yeah. Happens all the time.
Yeah.
The same thing happened to me with The Science of Getting Rich, which is one of my favorite books.
Yeah.
First couple times I read it, I was like, I don't even know what this says. Like, but I read it anyway, but it's a quick, easy read, but I was not an easy, but it's a quick read. Yeah. And then I think it was the third time I read it. I remember where I was sitting, I was on an airplane and I was like, my life was like transforming on the airplane. I was like, oh my God. But I didn't see that the first or second time that I read it. So it's amazing how that happens.
So amazing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, like you said earlier, this is all a process. It's not like our life transforms in a week and all of a sudden we're law of attraction masters and everything is just perfectly coming to us the way that we want it to. It's a process. It's a life journey. And, it's just a matter of honing in and on the craft of it and getting better at getting out of the resistance of it and stuff. And
you see and feel changes in a week or two.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They just keep getting more.
Yeah. Absolutely. One of the biggest shifts that I had in my business, I had been at the time, I was in a network marketing company,
Mhm.
and I had been in the company for years, and I was plateaued at a certain rank in the company, and I wanted to get to the next rank. And I kept having that as my goal, and I kept not hitting it, and I kept not hitting it. And I was in a lot of action. Like, I was calling phone numbers off of the sides of trucks driving past me on the highway to call them and just like see if they were open to another opportunity or
Yeah.
whatever. Like, I would do all the action, not getting the results. And I couldn't figure it out. I was watching other people advance. Like, I was like, whatever. I was gold and I wanted to get to platinum, and I was watching people go from gold to platinum to diamond and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Like, I'm
Yeah.
doing so much. And then I had this shift, and it was from A Course in Miracles, but
Cool.
it's a similar thing. When I got that, like, the world is an illusion and I create all of it, boom, I was
Oh, I
platinum.
got goosebumps. Yes, that's a
It was
true. Yeah.
crazy. It was just like, oh my God, my thoughts are everything.
Yes.
And that's all. I'm like welling up with tears right now. Like, that's what it comes down to. And yet we still, I slip back too, where I like start spiraling down in my circumstances or whatever. And, and then things don't work as well as I want them to, but that's what it comes down to. And that's why you can get results really quickly once you start applying it, but it's still a life practice. You still have
Yeah.
to,
We never get to
practice.
stop focusing or stop being deliberate.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're here. Like, we're here to create. We're here
Mm-hmm.
to like have that joy of having a thought, having an idea, deliberately focusing and watching it come to be. That's the fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I know, we're at the end here. I wanted to just, before we end, I wanted to know if there's anything I didn't ask you that you want to talk about, or any last thoughts that you want to leave people with.
We are launching a new course, this brand new course called Awaken Your Truth in February. So you can find all the information too on my website, ginnygane.com. But I'm really excited about that. It's something I've never done. And it's for anyone who is in the manifesting for a long time and wanting kind of that next level. It's more catered to that. Kind of going into that, what we were talking a lot about with Amy, like the heart part of it, the manifesting from that, like, connection to your source, connection to your soul place. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll link to that. We'll link to Jenny's website, Instagram, book. What else? Oh,
Awesome.
the LOA Skills Camp, right? Anything else you want to?
That's
Okay.
lots. Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad we got to have this conversation. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your beautiful soul with all of us.
Thank you, Amy. I'm so happy for the opportunity.
Yeah. And we'll see you all in the next episode.
Bye, guys.